Mr. Shetty, we'll start.
You can start. All right.
So, a very good afternoon and a warm welcome to everyone. My name is Sabiha Ghazali. I've been associated as the head of the Department Management Studies with Anjuman-I-ISLAM Institute of Hotel Management. We've gathered here today for a special session. We all know that there have been various and numerous webinars on the core areas and operations of hospitality. Well, the primary core of any and every industry are perhaps the people. So today's webinar emphasizes on the people's perspective. That is the human perspective. Like I always say in my lectures that unlike machines, humans do not come with a switch on, switch off button. It's the psychological factor that drives us humans. Yet, normally we tend to maintain our physical and professional setup and existence, but fail to do so with a psychological setup. The primary element to productivity is not just knowledge and skill, but also psychological stability, without which knowledge and skill are absolutely ineffective. Empathy is what underlines us as humans, and we need to reflect empathy not just for others but for our own selves too. It's important to maneuver our minds organically. And to touch upon such a crucial and important topic, we have Mr. Roshan Shetty, who willingly agreed to enlighten our students on the psychological element of existence. Mr. Shetty has been in the Indian corporate landscape for 17 years. He has worked with some of the biggest organizations where his expertise spans across project management, service excellence, CRM solutions, and sales. His journey in the corporate sector has been highly rewarding and fruitful. Along with his stint in the corporate, Mr. Shetty has recently launched his debut self-help book titled Shift Left, a counterculture narrative towards emotional well-being. Mr. Roshan is also a blogger and a podcaster, writing and speaking on the undercurrents that control our lives in the 21st century, touching upon aspects of popular societal dogmas and human behavior at large. Mr. Shetty is a certified career mentor for the Deya Career Mentors and constantly engages with the youth on career aspirations, the transition from college campus to a work life, and excelling in the corporate corridors. Mr. Shetty, I welcome you aboard, and I'm sure there will be lots for the students to take from today's session. And it's irrespective of whatever field, fraternity, because a sound mind really takes you miles ahead. So, Mr. Shetty, I leave the platform to you. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Sabia, for the beautiful introduction. And good afternoon to all. I'd really thank you to take this time out. It's not easy, to sit for a couple of hours to listen to someone else whom you don't know, especially. So I thank you for that. Uh, Sabiha mentioned it very rightly that we need to organically understand how our mind works and how to naturally create this state of happiness. I always say I love to speak with the youth because the youth are filled with ideas and creativity because they are not tarnished by the corporate world. They have not been exposed to formulas and ethics of business. So you have this free flow of creativity coming from the youth, and it's always great, to engage with those people because all your ideas always come from the. Even in the corporate world, you would see seniors trying to ask uh, youngsters or people who join, tell us what your ideas. How can we solve this problem? And then they would take those ideas and execute it in their own way. But the ideas always come from the youth. So I'm always happy to interact. I would like to thank the Anjuman-I-ISLAM Institute for allowing me to come over here, create a platform, and speak on uh, a very important topic that I see as for our 21st century. In the previous century, in the last decade, there were some goals which people had in terms of building their careers, creating prosperity, creating wealth. But the challenges of the 21st century are quite different from the 20th century, and I think we should look into those. 20th century was a time when we had the two world wars, we had the Cold War, uh, we had countries always on the state of war, and there was always this anxiety and tension. You don't see that now in 21st century. We have seen a very separate kind of war in the form of COVID right now for the last 8 months, and uh, there are a lot of challenges which are rising up from the nature and from the ecology. So how do we look at all this? How do we absorb all this, and how do we build our mind around this? How do we still create growth for ourselves? How do we still create happiness for ourselves in this changing dynamic? And that is what the presentation is all about. So I think we can start off. The idea is that it's not a download session. So I would love this to be interactive. You have a chat window. You can put up your messages over there. Let's keep it interactive. It's more of a dialogue. It's more of me and you talking, trying to understand what is happening around, how things work. Uh, the theory which I will suggest right now, I would love you guys to go back and implement this in your daily life. It is not a download session. It is not a Gyan session where you just listen to it and go. I was just mentioning to Sabia that I would love you guys to implement it, understand it as much as possible, and then try and implement it in your own little way and see what changes come across. And I am available on multiple platforms. You can always reach out to me, tell me how it's working for you, how it's not working for you. So be absolutely free. Let's keep this conversation absolutely fluid rather than just having it as a one-way download. So let's start. I'll just project my screen. So I think you have been told that this session is on emotional intelligence and well-being. I'll just put the presentation on the presentation mode. So I believe you've been told this session is on well-being and emotional intelligence. And we all have these different definitions, different ideas might have come to the mind. Who is this guy, Roshan Shetty? Why is he talking about emotional intelligence? What is emotional intelligence? Do I need it? I'm just starting my career. I'm just, finishing my studies and I'm going out in the corporate world. I think emotional intelligence, you have questions, well-being might be something you need to look at only after the age of 35, 40. Why I'm just maybe 17, 18, 20. Why do I need it now? The reason is the World Economic Forum has listed emotional intelligence as one of the top 5 skills which will be required in the next 5 to 10 years. All right. And hence it becomes more important. Like we create more automation, we create more systems around us. These automations and these systems will work best when we are on top of our emotional intelligence game. So hence it becomes very important. The current challenges of mental instabilities that we see amongst youngsters, it becomes important to understand emotional intelligence over there, and also to create that kind of harmony within our family, within a group, so that our interpersonal skills, our inner engineering is tuned to the people around us. And these are the three main pillars. So career, uh, your own well-being, and your uh, equation with others. These are the three most important points why I say emotional intelligence is important. So when we talk about well-being, everyone feels, oh, okay, it's all about being happy, keep smiling, keep laughing, and that is not what well-being or intelligence, emotional intelligence is all about. To be emotionally intelligent, you need to be intelligent about your emotions. You need to know what your emotions are trying to tell you, and that's why I say you need to accept your real self You need not be someone else, because the more you try being someone else, the more problems it will create for you in terms of your performance, in terms of your goals, in terms of your growth. So always the session is to bring you to your real self, go within yourself, understand yourself better. Uh, we talk about happiness. Happiness is a very recent term. Recent in a sense, it's a term which has been there for around only 100-150 years. It gained momentum, what I believe is post the Second World War, after 1945, 1950, where countries were trying to build up their economies after the disaster. There was a state of a recession, there was no growth, and there was this happiness cocoon created by creating more products and services into the market. So we all feel that, and because of that, we try to avoid the bad part. We try to ignore what creates problem for us. So understanding happiness does not mean how to manage our failures, and I will talk about this. We are Homo sapiens. We are built on dark emotions. All right. We started off as hunter gatherers in the forest, and we used to hunt for food. We didn't have the luxury of, excellent chefs like you today to cook better food. So it was always, we used to be out there in the forest, in the jungles, trying to hunt and gather food for ourselves. So in that way, we always had this conundrum of survival, right? Survival of the fittest. You all must have heard that term. So it was a real thing in those ages, because if you were not smart enough, it was quite possible that you could be killed by another predator, because there were animals all around. So hence you need to create these emotions, of saving yourself, of proving yourself. So these are dark emotions that we've been built of right since the lineage of Homo sapiens. And today, happiness is more of a product that has been sold to you by various brands, by various products, and so on and so forth, without understanding that happiness is something which is very internal. It is a state of mind. We as humans, our natural state of mind is to be happy. All right. But we have ignored that. We have got into the flow of various forces who constantly trying to tell us, do this to be happy, do that to be happy, buy this to be happy, go there to be happy, without. And that is what has taken us away from understanding that happiness is within us. It's a state of mind that we have to be in, or we are naturally built on that way. We don't have to engineer something to become happy. So my session is about going deep into various states of emotions. uh, in the past, the sessions that I've taken, people, it's about making people more uncomfortable by making them realize on their own shortcomings. So I say, let's get uncomfortable rather than getting comfortable over here. And I've called this session the shift left experience. Like Kavya mentioned, my book Shift Left has been published in September, and the entire book is a detailed study on bringing happiness, understanding growth, creating growth for yourself. And that's why I have named my sessions as the Shift Left Experience. And today we are speaking on emotional intelligence and well being. To start with the session, I would want to have a short exercise of breathing. And this is a very simple exercise, right? This is something that we do. We are alive because we breathe, right? There is nothing hidden from that. But I would like to take you through a short experience of understanding breathing. People who practice meditation or practice Vipassana would be very familiar with this. But I would like to take you through that experience and understand what our breathing is, understand what focus is. So I know it's a big group, and let's try to do this. The first step I would want everyone is to shut off your phones, put your phones on silent, cut off any kind of alerts, distractions, put off your emails off, everything. Just ensure anything that creates noise is not around you. All right. Uh, put yourself in a very comfortable position. Just be relaxed. Don't think about me. Someone is talking to you. Just be relaxed. Just be yourself. No one is looking at you. You are at your own comfort, upright, shoulders. Be easy. Be light within yourself, and just close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, what I want you to do is now bring all your attention only on your breathing. And how you would do that is by focus on your nostrils, where the air comes in when you're inhaling, and as the air goes out as you're exhaling. I would just want you to do that very slowly. Just close your eyes in a very relaxed position and bring all your thoughts, all your attention into your breathing. And just within your mind, just say to yourself that I'm now inhaling as you take air in and slowly exhale it out. Okay, let's do this for exactly 1 minute. Close your eyes and I will give you 1 minute and be back. I'll be back in a minute. All right, let's come back. Uh, Sabia, is it possible you could unmute for a minute so I can talk about the experience? Is that possible?
Yes, 1 second. I'll just ask Sohail to do the need. Give me a second, I'll do that.
Yeah, just for this part, I would want to unmute and then we can put them on mute because I would like to hear from students what they felt. So while we get the mic up, and I would want to hear from a few students. Like I said, I would want it to be a bit interactive. I would want to hear from a few of you what exactly happened when you were trying to focus on your breath. And be absolutely true to me. You don't have to sugarcoat anything and say everything was great. Yeah.
So I have unmuted Shiva. Shiva, if you could speak up. I have unmuted Shiva. I'll unmute Shivani Deshmukh also.
Yeah, Shivani, can you share experience what happened in this 1 minute?
I just feel very calm. Good afternoon, sir. It was a great experience. I was focusing on my breathing, and when I take the breath in, I feel very coolness in my throat, and like when you said open your eyes, and I feel like very calm, composed, Uh, it just changed my mood, and I'm very happy right now. All the stress is just gone.
Okay, great. You're happy in a minute. Shivani,
So there's Shivani, there is Aditi Chavan, there is Ridesh. So these are the four students I
yeah,
have muted, so they
yeah,
can give their reactions. Yeah.
yeah. Ritesh, Aditi, Shivani. Anyone?
Shivani, can you speak up, please?
Yes. Um, Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. As soon as I opened my eyes, I was feeling really very relaxed. From very calm. It was very nice, actually.
Okay.
Ridesh, can you speak up? Ridesh, Aditi, please speak up.
Good afternoon, sir. I just felt little free from other things.
Okay. So, well, that's great that you guys are saying this, but in reality, I'll tell you what happens. When I tell you to close your eyes and focus on your breath, until and unless if you're not a well-trained guru or well-trained meditationer, it is very difficult to focus. You cannot focus at all. You know, suddenly I'm over here. I'm asking you to close your eyes and leave, forget everything that you've been thinking of, and suddenly focus on your breathing. That's not possible. Because when you and it's not your intent. I know you intend to breathe that way. I know you want to think that way, but you have different thoughts playing in your mind. Someone might be thinking, when will this session get over? Some might be thinking, what will I do after this? Some might be thinking, I have some exams going on. When do I study for it? Some might be thinking, what is happening at their house? They need to pick up something. And then suddenly you realize, oh, this Roshan has asked me to breathe. And you try to bring your attention back into focus. And then again, you lose your attention. Has this happened? I think this is more natural to happen than getting into a state of absolute happiness and feeling free in just a minute, right? I think what I mentioned might have happened to most of you, I believe. So that is what happens, and it happens to me even today when I try to do my meditation. It's not immediately that I can start, focusing on my breath. But the important part of meditation is, or the important part of this exercise, is to actually observe how your attention moves from your focus on your breath to something else. And then you're trying to bring it back into your breathing as I instructed. And then it goes away thinking about something else, and then you're trying to bring it back into your breathing. So this is a mental workout. Like we go into the gym, we lift weights, we will lift weights to do a rep of 10 reps, 20 reps, and then we keep it down based on a capacity. This is a mental workout. How many seconds we can hold our attention, right? uh, with this you can actually see your attention coming back into what you want, and your attention leaving out. All right. And as you practice this daily, you would be able to see the change. You will be able to see that you're able to hold your attention for much more time than it was from day one. Right? Daily practice helps us in taking that. And as you build this helps your focus, this helps your breathing, this helps you to regulate your emotions. Because this, what happens is in our mind is like a slate with too many things written on it. Those things are our thoughts, which we keep trying to read every now and then. But this is the exercise which is like a duster, which erases everything from the board and makes your mind a clean slate, which is open for creativity, open to absorb more information. It is open to focus. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to go again, do the same thing, and now focus on your attention, leaving your mind thinking about something else. It can be anything. It can be your college, it can be your friends, uh, people at home, anyone. And then you're trying to bring your attention, try to hold your attention on your breath, on your nostrils, from where you breathe in and from where you breathe out. Let's do this again for a minute and let's see the difference now if you're able to pay attention to that part. I'll give you another minute before we go ahead. So close your eyes, be relaxed, and slowly focus on your breath again. And inhale and exhale out slowly. All right, let's come back. I hope now you were able to watch how your attention, how you were trying to get your attention into breathing and how it was going away into thinking something else. That is now how you focus on your attention, how you focus on what you're thinking. You are now observing how your attention diverts. So this is the same way when you've been told to focus on a task at your workplace, at your college, but you keep thinking about something else. The idea is that's fine. It's natural to think about something else, but the idea is to always get back your emotion or your thought into what has to be done. And as you practice, you will be able to see that you are able to focus on things much better with this small act. It doesn't require much. Just practice this for 1 minute a day. Slowly increase it to 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and then you would see that it's going on to half an hour or 1 hour. And that is how you build your meditation practice. You build this technique, and you would see massive changes within yourself. Uh, a very common question that we ask people when we meet them is, "How are you?" Right? I would ask students over here, Ritesh, Shivani, Shiva, how are you? And within our minds, when we want to answer this question, we have two kinds of answers, right? Uh, and I look at these answers on a scale, which I call it as the goodness scale of life, where there is something which is very positive, everything is working well for us, and something which is negative. There are issues happening in our life, there are some problems, there are some challenges that we want to deal with. And you would find people responding to this question of how are you in two ways. There will be one kind of person who would say, I am perfect, I am doing great. Okay. What he essentially means over here is I cannot improve from this point. I am perfect. I know everything. I have everything. I don't need to learn more. I don't need to understand more. What I say is always right. That is one kind of person. And the other person that you come across who says I'm totally screwed. Always the worst happens to me. If I don't get good marks, if I don't get good grades, it is because of this reason or that reason. They always cry the victim. They always want to blame someone, and they always feel they are entitled. We call something as entitlement. What is entitlement? Entitlement is thinking that all the bad things that happens would only happens to me, right? So these are the two extremes that people are on, and both the extremes causes major problems for people because they either see them, they cannot see a larger picture. They don't get a bigger picture of life, what it is. And the bigger picture is always that you don't stay at the extreme. You have to balance it out by being somewhere in between. So when you say, how are you? You if you say I am perfect, you need to change that to saying I am good, but I need to improve each day. I can prepare this dish this way, it is good. My professors have given me good grades on this, but I can do much better. I can reach towards becoming excellent. And that is how we create excellence in our lives, by being a critique to ourselves, by questioning our own creations, by believing that we can be better than this, by learning, by practicing, by seeing, looking at a mentor, we can get better. And that is how life moves. That is how you move towards excellence. At the other end, if there is something bad that happens to you, instead of saying that the worst happens to me, agree that, okay, fine, it is something which is bad, but it could have been worse, right? It could have been worse than what has happened. And you need to question, what have I learned from this whole experience? Okay, I don't see anything as failures. I always call them learnings. So anything that goes wrong, what have you learned? It is very important that you don't go any failure to waste by not learning from it. And how we improve, if we are good, we need to always move to better, to the best. And we need to constantly seek improvement by asking people, by looking at information, by reading information. We need to get into excellence. If you want to be in the top 1% of being the best out of the best, you need to be in that pursuit of perfection. You need to be curious to always know more. And this is how even the best of experts, the best of people in the field today, they keep improving. They never say they are the best. They always say, I need to improve. You see any actor, you see any sports person, you see anyone for that matter, people who work in the field of science, they always keep seeking improvement to improve what they can do right now. And at the same time, when something goes bad, like I mentioned, you need to keep improving from your past mistakes. You cannot be repeating those mistakes. It's okay to mistake. Please don't think it is absolutely a sin to do a mistake. It is absolutely okay. Something went wrong, goes wrong. It's not something which you do purposefully. The best of the people can do mistakes, but the best of the people are those who improve from the past mistakes and don't repeat the mistake again. And more importantly, knowing that there is much worse, much bad things that is happening around the world. You need to know that. You need to be appreciative that whatever is happening to you, something might be bad, but there's someone who's facing issues. During these times of Corona and COVID, people had, people were asked to cut down their salary. But if those people just cried saying that, I had a deduction in my salary, they need to understand there are many people who actually lost their job. If you are a person who is able to get a job, if you're able to go to work every day, you need to be grateful, because there are many who cannot do that, who would love to do that, but they cannot do that. And we need to always remind ourselves of those things. We need to be grateful. We need to have gratitude each day to what we have. And we always by knowing that, a lot of worse things happen around the world, and be thankful that you are not, you're not there. And you can always have a chance to improve from your mistakes. You always have a chance to move towards perfection, and you always have a chance to constantly seek improvement with all your resources around you. Okay. uh, but what happens, what stops us from, seeking improvement? What stops us from moving towards excellence? If I am able to make this biryani, for example, why am I not able to better it? Why am I not able to improve it? If I am good at interacting with people, why am I not able to create excellence in that? And there is this term, uh, which we called as ego depletion, right? Ego is something which can make us, and ego is something which can break us. Positive ego is something which is required to give us confidence, to build our personality, to build our habits, our behavior. But when that ego goes in the wrong direction, we become egotists. We say that we want everything for ourselves. We say that it is against our ego to do this or that. You know, everyone might have heard of Hitler. Hitler was a very strong egotist. Why the Second World War happened is because he wanted the whole world to follow his command. He wanted absolute control for himself, right? And there is where ego is dangerous. But here we are trying to talk about the good side of ego. The ego which helps you to go from good to better to the best. But there are things which happen to us in our life which stops us from that. And there are some scientific things which I would like to talk about. Uh, so, what science, what uh, psychologists, they have done a lot of experiments, and they have mentioned that there is a dual nature of your brain. There is only one brain. Don't start touching your head and thinking you have two brains within you. You just have one brain. But the brain functions in two very characteristic ways. We call it, in science, they call it the system 1 and the system 2, or some people call it type 1 or type 2, or we might call it the intuitive brain and the thinking brain. In very common terms, in our parlance, we say, अपने दिल से मत सोचो, अपने दिमाग से सोचो. दिल और दिमाग. I would like to connect it that way. So, what is the intuitive brain and what is the thinking brain? When I ask you this question, 2 plus 2, immediately you would give me the answer as 4. When I ask you this question, 20 plus 20, you would immediately but still take a microsecond more than 2 plus 2 and give me the answer as 40. Okay? Because 2 plus 2, you always heard 2 and 2 makes 4, 2 plus 2 is 4, do ka char. This is what you constantly hear. So this narrative, this statement is been fixed into your mind since childhood, right? The easy way out. There's no effort which is required on your part to think 2 plus 2 makes 4. But what is important over here is when your system 2 comes into play. If I ask you what is 276 into 37, okay, now to calculate this, you cannot give the answer immediately. You need some time to think. You would probably use the calculator. You would start calculating in your mind. And this is where your system 2 comes into play. It is your thinking part of the brain which comes into play over here. All right. Another example is if I ask you to cross the road, okay, automatically without asking or without being told, you would see left and then you would see right to see if there are cars passing by and then cross the road, right? But if I tell you cross the road based on the speed of those two moving vehicles, so now you would stand there and you would try to calculate approximately, not accurately, what is the speed of the car which is crossing, and I will cross based on that speed. So these are examples how your system 1 and system 2 comes into play. Your system 1, your intuitions are developed or created based on your surrounding, based on your environment, based on the culture that you have grown up. From your childhood at home, you have seen certain practices. You have seen certain rituals that are followed at home. And that beliefs becomes your belief system. You think this is the right thing to do because these are the values which have been taught to me by my parents, by my teachers, by all those influencers in my life. And you become very familiar with those rituals, with those practices because it is easy to understand. But suddenly, if I come and tell you that your beliefs are wrong, this is not what it is, you will object it. You will fight against me. You will say this is not right because now I am projecting something new to you. Even though what I am telling you might be the truth, you will not believe it because the most important thing is you are not familiar with it, right? And that is what creates a conflict in our mind. Our mind, by science, how science defines our brain, is a very lazy organ. A mind doesn't like to take an effort. It always tries to take the shortcut. It always tries to see what is the easy way out. All right. Because thinking requires effort, and that effort creates a conflict in a mind. And that is why you would see in schools, colleges, in offices, when you have been told to do something, there is a conflict. The first reaction that comes is of conflict. You think, "अरे यार ये क्या करने बोल रहा है? ये तो मुझे पता नहीं है." What we need to understand that what is been told is might be for the good. All right, it is only our brain, because our brain is not used to change. It is only because of that which is creating a conflict, and we need to understand this mindset very well. The people who do well for themselves, they are at ease in dealing with these conflicts. They don't allow conflicts to come, and that is what we call something in scientific terms as cognitive ease and cognitive stress. When you switch on the TV, you would be at ease looking at the movies or the shows of your favorite actors or your favorite actresses or your favorite stars. But there will be a cognitive stress if you have been made to sit and watch a movie of someone you don't like. That is natural, right? That happens to us in our natural lives. Just think about it. At the same time, you would be easy to watch a sport or follow a sport which you are familiar with, but you would hate something which you are not familiar with or you don't like. And that creates cognitive stress. The only reason this happens is because you are not familiar with it, not because that is something wrong which has been told to you or shown to you, but you are not familiar with it, right? And a very important point that comes into our life is of instant gratification. The way our system 1 brain, our type 1 brain, our intuitive brain has been programmed with this generation today is that we want things quickly for us. We don't want to wait. The virtue of patience, to be patient, बोलते हैं ना कि सब्र करो, that has gone away. And we feel that growth should be fast. We need to grow fast. And the reason that is happening because constantly you're subjected to media, social media platforms, to people who have portrayed that life. These people portray their successes, but no one tells what they go through to reach there. And no one understands that. No one wants to understand what is the suffering. No one wants to understand the pain that people take to reach a spot. We only see the great photos, great pictures, great products, and we see, immediately it's a natural tendency. It's not that someone thinks that way. It's a natural tendency, the way our mind is programmed, that we want to do that. And to prove that, there was a very famous marshmallow experiment. So what the scientists did over here was, he got some 100 students in the class, school students, kids. He made them sit in the classroom and he offered them marshmallows. I hope we all know what marshmallows are. He offered them marshmallows, but he gave them one condition. He gave each of the 100 students one marshmallow in hand. He gave them a condition. He said to the students, you can either eat the marshmallow now and leave the room, but if you hold to the marshmallow for 15 minutes, okay, and not eat the marshmallow immediately, I would give you another marshmallow after 15 minutes. Okay. So what he said that is that you can eat this marshmallow right away and you can leave the room, no issues at all, but you will not get the second marshmallow. And he put a condition saying that if you do not eat the marshmallow and if you are able to hold it for 15 minutes, I will give you a second marshmallow. Now, and these are small kids, 3-4-year-old kids, not adults who can understand, not teenagers also. So immediately a major population, a major chunk of those kids swallowed the marshmallow. They did not want to wait. They wanted that to grab that marshmallow immediately for themselves. There was only a small fraction, maybe about 20% of the students who did not eat the marshmallow, who just kept the marshmallow to themselves. Now, this is based on the thinking of these two groups. One group was tuned in to the system one, to the intuitive, that, if there's any good, grab it immediately for yourself. And the other group deployed their system two thinking. They said, okay, actually, if I control my feelings, if I control my urge to eat it right now, I can actually gain, I can actually make a profit and, get another marshmallow for myself. So why not just go through the 15 minutes? Of course, there were some students who got tempted by looking at the other kids having and eating and enjoying the marshmallow. But some kids hold on to their discipline. Okay. They held on to it and they did not consume the marshmallow. And what happened was, of course, after 15 minutes, the kids got the second marshmallow. Now, this experiment did not end over here. The scientists actually traced these kids into their teenage lives and into adulthood. The kids who did not eat the marshmallow immediately, who did not wait, who rather, waited to consume and waited for the extra reward, those were the kids who actually excelled in life. They were good in their grades, they were good in whatever they did in sports, and eventually when they went on the field in their career, they were good in their career as well. They were the people who got great SAT scores, they got good jobs. The reason being, these were the people who were conditioned to hold on to their gratification. They were conditioned to believe that putting effort, waiting for the right time, being patient, helps us a lot, you know. And today, that is how our world is. People, everyone wants to be successful, everyone wants to have growth, everyone wants to be rich, everyone wants great property, great family. But people are not ready to understand the patience, the effort, the time that they need to devote and hold on to, getting those things in life. And immediately you see that when people don't get that immediately, they feel, oh, my life is not going anywhere. I'm a failure. I'm so and this and that. Please try to understand. You look at the big success houses. No one is an instant success. No one is an overnight success. It takes time. It takes patience. My own job, my first job, I worked for a company selling credit cards for the first year, in spite of being a computer science graduate. For the first entire year, I did not have a salary. Uh, Nothing was paid to me. I was only paid the commission based on how many credit cards I could sell. There were times where I did not have any money to eat for afternoon lunch, and I come from a decent middle class background where these issues were not there. But I went through the grind, and I did not quit my job because I knew these are the challenges that we have to get used to. Okay, these are the failures that should come to us early in life, so that we learn from these failures and go ahead. But instead, what happens is, if we are not tuned, if we don't understand these terms, that depletes our ego, and that stops us from achieving excellence. That stops us from what we can do in life. Right? It is just a hurdle that we have to jump and move ahead. These are the things that creates ego depletion. And the factors. What you must do is, you need to understand these mind states. You need to understand that everything has its own time and everything has its own journey, to meet that. Uh, we try to please someone whom we don't like just for the heck of it. That is what depletes your ego. We try to spend more money than what we have, and there's no control over our finances. That is what depletes your ego. So we lose our control into things which we know are required, which are important. But when we actually go out there in real life, we lose control because we carry depleted egos within ourselves. All right. That is what we need to understand. We need to adhere to. We need to learn better to move forward. And you might think, why does the ego deplete? I'm a very sane guy. Uh, how does this happen? So let me tell you, you are not at fault over here. All right. There are very strong forces in the market, there are superpowers who constantly create these stories, who constantly tell you these stories, which actually depletes your ego. And what I say that is what you see is what you don't get, because what you see is most of the times not real. And these are controlled by powerful media houses, government regimes, by various business houses who spend a lot of money to make you buy their product. They always tell you that you will be great after you buy this, you will be too happy after you buy that. And constantly there is, you put on the television on today, and constantly you will see different kind of narratives being told just to sell a product, just to sell a service on the news or wherever it might be. So I say, and constantly there is this anxiety which is created. There is always a state of war, which is a bigger market than the war itself, you know, because the state of war is what creates tension. अभी क्या होगा? अभी इसने ऐसा बोला, अब क्या होगा? अब मुझे क्या करना चाहिए? अब मैं कैसे अपने आप को better करूं? These are questions. These questions, when it comes into our mind, we lose control on our logical thinking. Okay. When system one is in play, we lose control of system two. When the intuition is in play, and this is how our intuition is created, by constantly showing us things which are bad. Okay, because the human mind, gets attracted to negative things. It gets attracted to fear very fast than the good things in life. All right, and these people know that, and they will constantly create stories to tell you that things are bad. We need to understand that, because it's a big market. When they tell you this, they are able to sell you products, sell you services, sell you goods, which help them, which help their businesses. All right. Uh, and today, with information which is available everywhere, you go on Facebook, you go on WhatsApp, you go on Twitter, you go on any platform today. There is an information overload. In the past decade or 20 years, we didn't have so much of information, and today it is this information which is creating this confusion amongst us. you know we want to know should be a good career for us, so we just Google, and we are shown so many options that we get confused into what has to be done, without understanding what our actual skill is, what we are really good at, and then what we should pick up. With this information overload, what has happened is finding the correct information has become even more difficult, because everyone has an opinion. सबको बात करनी है, सबको बताना है, सबको एक पोस्ट डालना है कि ऐसा करो वैसा करो, और सबके बोलने में we are it's so difficult for us to understand कि बस सच क्या है, what is the truth. We are not able to find the truth. Okay, that's the reason for last 2.5 years I have stopped reading all kinds of newspapers. I have stopped watching news channels. I don't look at it at all. All right. Even during COVID, I was not reading, or I was not looking at the news, because nothing helps. This is just information which is created for people to be there sitting on the television for hours and hours, wasting their precious time into what they can devote for their own good, for their own growth, instead pulling them into something which is absolutely useless. And that is what, I'm not sure if you guys have heard about this term, which will be a very important term in the next 5 to 10 years, which is the attention economy. We use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp, thinking everything is free, it is great. We have great comfort. Yes, they have excellent benefits. I don't deny that. But we need to use those benefits in a way which will help us, and which will not instead pull us into them completely. Because let me tell you what happens. Let me give you an example. Okay. All of you, any football fans in the group, might know of Maradona's death a few days ago, right? And I am a great fan of Maradona. So naturally, when I was on my Facebook, uh, I clicked on a couple of videos of Maradona, and I saw, some of his goals, some of the when Argentina won the World Cup in 1982. I just saw those videos and left it there. What happened after that was that constantly on my Facebook, I kept getting Maradona videos. I kept getting, how was Maradona's childhood? Where was he born? How was his school? How did he learn football? How did he play football? What did he do after football? How did he die? And all that stuff, which was I was least interested. But what has happened is now Facebook knows that Roshan likes Maradona. He saw two of his videos. So Roshan will now click on every Maradona video that is shown to him. So let's bombard him with that same content. And the person who's creating the Maradona videos is paying Facebook to show me that video. And this is how Facebook is making money, or any of these social media platforms are making money. Our attention is pulled into specifically what we like. See, what happens is earlier, when you saw television, when you used to watch TV, or when we were out, when we saw an ad on the television or maybe a billboard hoarding on the road, we used to only pay attention to it if it interested us, right? Natural. If you are not interested, we used to hardly look at it. Or we would see the poster of a movie celebrity if we like that movie celebrity. If we don't like that movie celebrity or the celebrity is unknown, we would not even look at it. So what was happening is the advertising was not impactful. It was not reaching. It would make an impact only in 10% to 20% of the people. But with the online boom, with social media, now I can send you only those ads. I can send you only those videos in which you have an interest, right? So my brother might not have interest in football and Maradona. He might have interest in cricket. So he will not see the Maradona videos. And now it's a very targeted ad. And these target ad is what creates a bias within our mind in thinking, into believing what truth is. Okay, we become familiar. Like I mentioned, the system one and system two brain, we become familiar with these things and then we assume that it is the only truth in life. And in reality, what has happened, the actual truth has gone somewhere deep down, which no one has seen. That is the problem. That's the same thing in a career. We forget, we do not see the ways and the methods which are required for success. We only are constantly projected to certain types of success and we feel this is success. This is how you can achieve excellence in life. And that is not the truth. We need to come out of that attention economy. Okay. And there's a very interesting terminology today. It's actually a career option. So when you go on to LinkedIn, you would see some people mentioning that they are growth hackers. What growth hackers means is the person who was constantly putting the Maradona videos on my Facebook page, the algorithm, is a growth hacker. He will find which kind of people are interested in which kind of subjects and constantly throw them those kind of topics so that they are interested in. So I'll give you another example. What happens is, let's say today I have a small baby at home. I have a daughter, and I will go online. I will try to search for diapers. Now what happens is, when I search for diapers, the algorithm, someone at the back end is trying to has understood that this person is searching for diapers, so there's a baby at home. Okay, and because I have a baby at home, they would know that apart from diapers, this person will also need a baby powder. So start showing him ads of baby powder. Start showing him ads of uh, baby clothes. You know, all those ads will start showing up on my feed, and I think this is random. This is natural, but I am actually being primed basis my condition, my situation. And this is what happens to you. You as a student might, search, as a catering student might search the best hotel service industry or best paying jobs. And now they know that you are a youth who's looking for a job, and constantly you will start getting various job ads. You will start getting information which you might not even require, but they think it is important for you, right? This is what growth hackers do. They constantly play on your mind. They constantly play on your emotions and understand exactly. In fact, they say that in a few years, these algorithms will know you yourself more than anyone else, And that is how the subconscious mind is created. What we see in day-to-day life is in a conscious mind. But once we see some things, at the end of the day, that gets when we go to sleep, those things get registered in our mind into our subconscious. And those are the areas where our dreams are manifested, our dreams are created. You all might realize there are some time we get these random dreams about things that is not there in our mind, but somewhere, somehow we might have seen it, we might have met him, and that thing comes into a dream as well. And we wonder, ye suddenly kaise? Why did I dream about this thing? It was just a random event or just a random person I met. But these are the things that gets captured in the subconscious. That's how our brain works. This is how scientists have decoded, uh, brain activity. And now we are in a stage where people can actually predict how the brain functions, how we dream, and what we dream. All right. I give this example of the pink lion. Let's say I go to the zoo with my kid and I tell you I saw this beautiful pink lion. It had great hair, it had a great physique, and it jumped from one part to the other. It was very active. The pink lion was taken care by the officials very well, and so on. But this entire thing is a false. There is no pink lion. There's no pink lion that exists in real world. But even when I tell you it's a false story, the idea of the pink lion is registered in your mind. It is created in your mind, and you will think different things about the pink lion. Even when I tell you it is false, stop thinking about it. Your mind will constantly think about the pink lion. And that is how information is planted into our minds, into our brains. When we see the news, we see, okay, the economy is falling down, there is no job, and suddenly we think that everything is bad. You know, everything has gone out for a toss without knowing what the real situation out in the world is. And that is what impacts our emotions. And based on that, we do things which are not based on our own action, but what someone else wants us to act on. All right. Sabia, we are just one past
Mr.
10. I thought we could give a 5-minute break for everyone. I think it's getting heavy, or you want me to continue? We can take a couple of minutes breather or proceed.
We can proceed further, Mr. Shetty. That's
Okay.
not a problem.
Okay, sure. Right. So, anyone having any thoughts on these would like to share on what I've mentioned? Go back, start thinking about these things and understand that maybe this has happened to you as well. Anyone would like to share any points on this?
In fact, if anybody has any points to put forth, please put it in the chat box, or if you want to be unmuted, we can always do that.
Yeah, because like I mentioned even earlier, that it is important that we take these examples and we are able to relate. These are things which happen in our daily life. These are all scientifically proven, theories. But I don't want to speak theory and make it very heavy. The reason I give these examples is because you're able to relate. This happens in our daily life, and what happens and how our emotions are controlled by someone else. We think we are in control of our emotions. We think we are the absolute master of our thoughts, but it is not. And this is only to make you understand how these are controlled and what you can do to get beyond that.
It's in fact wherein where artificial intelligence is actually controlling the emotional intelligence. I mean, I look at it from that perspective, where we have in fact controlled by the artificial intelligence. You don't need a robot to be controlled. In fact, today I feel we have turned into robots where we are emotionally controlled. We can see the kind of spew and venom on social platforms because we have been emotionally controlled. I mean, that's just one point that I
Yeah,
completely
yeah,
like, what you reflected upon is so true. And with these young minds, we have to be particularly tell them what the narrative behind this entire strategy is. And they need to be, there should be clarity as far as all this is concerned. And because they are young minds, and I keep telling them this in our classes, particularly when I teach them organizational behavior. So it's a
yeah,
sad state.
absolutely. Absolutely, Sabia, because why I want to bring it out to the youth and why I say, my book is a counterculture narrative is because the popular culture today is, to go with these things, and you don't realize that what it makes out of you. It is taking you away from your natural state of behavior. Your natural state of behavior is, I want to pick this because I've been shown this on media. But instead, I want to, if I was not shown that, and if naturally, if I was asked, I would have probably picked up something else. Maybe anything, any choice in life. Maybe it's a shirt, maybe it's a career, maybe it's a life partner, anything, investment opportunity. So you need to always question yourself is that if I've been shown something or if I make a decision today, is this decision because of what I've been seeing constantly on my social media or television or something else, or have I actually done enough research? Today, the problem is we don't do enough research. Like I said, our brain is lazy; it doesn't want to take effort. And taking an effort goes into conflict, but that conflict is good. That is what really develops. That is what will bring real growth within us. And that is where we move into the next topic, where we say talk about validation and approval. It is good to have mentors. I have a mentor for me in my life. From whom I take feedback. I constantly engage to ask how can I get better in my writing, in my delivery, in my content, and so on and so forth. But apart from that, what happens is the way we are conditioned, the way popular culture is today, is we constantly seek validation and approval, not by directly asking people, but in an indirect, subtle way. You know, so we will look at this. It's a very important topic, and here I want to bring the attention to another scientific experiment, which is called the Barnum and Forer effect. Okay, essentially, what these people did was they called some 50 people into a room, and they gave them a list of questions to answer. They asked them that go on, read each question and answer each question based on your personality. And they said once you answer that, submit those answers. Don't show those answers to anyone else. Keep those answers to yourself. And based on what you answer, we will tell you what your personality is. A very common thing, a very common task that we see in many places. So these people went ahead. They went on taking answers to the questions based what they read, and they submitted. After 2 days, these people were called again, and they said, they had a one-to-one session. They said, this is how you are, this is what your personality is, this is what you should do, and so on and so forth. But what happened was they gave the same answer to each of those 50 people. The answer sheets, the list of definitions which were created, was the same for everyone. But what every individual felt is that no, what has been told to me is only to me. It is only my trait. I am unique. I am special in this way. Now, and based on that, we create validations. We go and take approval. I have been told that this is what my traits are, especially when we go to someone like astrology. Okay, an astrologer will see a hand or कुंडली देखेगा और बताएगा आप ऐसा करो आप वैसा करो बहुत पैसा आएगा. We fail to understand or realize that that is the story being told to 80%, to every person, because every person has 80% similar traits in their lives. Nothing is different. We think we create the story, oh, I am special, I should be treated in this so and so way. Oh, I did this so and so course, so I should be paid so much money. that is just a story which has been created in our head. We forget that we have to work hard towards achieving what we want to do. We have to have a mind and body tuned and in action, in moment. It's pure physics. It is not something out of the blue. It is blue is science. But instead, what we hear is we have this Barnum and Forer effect created. We think that what is personal to us, the traits which are intrinsic to us, is only for us. We try to guard it, we try to shelf it, and we think we are special in this world. We are not. Okay, 80%, 90% of the individuals, humans who are there, have the same traits. They carry the same personalities. It is what we can do with our. This is what I constantly say. It is not. We are not defined by what happens to us. We are always defined by what becomes of us. We are always defined by how we can change our challenges into something else without listening to what society wants to tell us. Of course, man is a social animal. Need for societal status and recognition has been right from the history of humanity and Homo sapiens. Because when we evolved from apes to humans, okay, we moved in groups, we moved in tribes, and if our status was not known to another tribe, अगर दूसरे group को पता नहीं होता कि रोशन कौन है, there was a challenge that Roshan could have been killed because no one knows Roshan. There's no societal status. So this behavior of ours, because we wanted to be protected, because we wanted to be alive, at that time we always created a societal status. Okay, I am Roshan, I am so and so, I am this, that. And that is existing even today. We have moved from the jungle to posh apartments and buildings, but our behaviors have not changed. There is something, a theory in evolution, which is called natural science, natural selection. And that natural selection has always been in our DNA. So even today, we want to create a societal status. Although there's no one who's coming to kill us, we are not in the jungle anymore. We want to create a status. We want to show that I am so and so, I'm so and so person, I'm great. And we want to get that approval. We want people to tell, oh, yes, Roshan, I know you, I'm great. But Roshan is just a normal man. And we want to get that recognition always from people, right? And this is the big elephant in the room that we talk. Our behavior has been conditioned to get everyone's approval. And out of 10 people, 8 will tell you, what you're saying is absolutely crap. पता नहीं लड़का है लड़की क्या बोल रही है क्या बोल रहा है कुछ भी बोले जा रहे हैं but and then you change your decision based on the opinions of others, based on what society is telling you. You kill your intuition, you kill your own passion when you start taking approval from others. And this is a very thin line. You need to take feedback from your mentors. You need to take feedback from people who really matter. Our educational institutions are such a big, huge system who shape us the way our skills are, our talents are. Of course, you need to listen to them and follow that trend, but you cannot be listening to everyone in the society. That is what will deplete your ego. Going back to the ego depletion, that will kill your passion. That will just kill your creativity when you start asking for approval. Trust me, I never had a dream of writing a book. I never thought in my life I will write a book. I was not good in language. I never trained in writing. But if people kept telling me all that, and if I kept listening to all that, I would have never written a book which is doing so well today. Right? People are coming with reviews and saying how that book is impacting their lives. It is how they're changing, how that it has shifted their perspectives, how it has shifted their thoughts into some. All that wouldn't have happened if I kept listening to people. So I always say that if I knew everything about writing a book, I would have never written a book in my life. So we need to be very clear about that fact. We need to be aware of that fact. And in the validation and approval, there's this thing called as the halo effect. What the halo effect is basically that we assume some people to have extra greatness even when they don't have it. All right, let's say I like a certain celebrity, or let's say I like a certain cricketer or a tennis player or a footballer. What happens is if I like that person so much that anything which is wrong, done wrongly by that person, I ignore it. I ignore all their wrongdoings just because I love them. There's a halo effect which is created in our mind. A politician, might not be doing something right, but still I cover it up by saying, by giving justifications, giving reasoning, because just because I love them, because I respect them. And this halo effect is basically which stops us to see the truth, to understand what the drawbacks are and how it can be improved. Sometimes we have this halo effect for ourselves. We think, we are the best. Like I mentioned, the goodness scale of life, I cannot improve. And that is what brings, you know, uh, limits us in our growth, which doesn't allow us to go further and do what we want to do. Uh, Moving into the next topic, I would want to I would want to take you through a small video and just try to show you over here uh, what emotions are. And often we've been told, we think that emotional intelligence, we should not show our emotions to people. We should control our emotions. We should, not let anyone know how we are feeling. But I feel that is absolutely wrong. And here, there's this video of this lady. Her name is Marina Abramovich. Okay. A very famous TED speaker, a very famous coach. Maybe some of you have seen the video uh, earlier as well. And I would like to just show this video. It's basically based on uh, what she does is she conducts an event, an exhibition where people come in front of her. They just sit in front of her and she would just stare into their eyes. All right. And she would constantly stare deeply into their eyes. And many of these people will actually cry, will break down for whatever reason. Not a word has been said, nothing. Okay. And she has done experiments where she would just stand in the crowd and she would ask people to do anything to her. And people have torn her clothes, taken a blade and cut her wrist. And all of that has happened and she hasn't moved at all. She has done those kind of experiments. She conducts many workshops. She has a center of excellence, and there is this video 40 years ago. She had a boyfriend whom they loved a lot. They loved each other a lot, but they decided to break out in a very unique way. So what they did was they decided they will go to the Great Wall of China, and both the boy will start from one point and Marina will start from one point. They will walk thousands of kilometers and they will meet at a common point on the Great Wall of China and they will say goodbye. And that is how she broke off with her boyfriend 40 years ago. Now, when she was doing this exhibition, of looking into people, calling people to sit in front of her and stare at her boyfriend just came out of nowhere. And just see how the emotions went in this video. I will just play that. Just hold on. Just give it a minute. I think it's taking some time to load. Savia, can you see the screen?
Yes, I can see the screen, Mr. Shetty.
Okay, I'll just play the video. It has no sound, so I'll just play it now.
Okay.
So anyone would like to reflect upon this and just explain what did you see, and anyone would like to speak on the video?
Anyone, particularly those who have been, unmuted. You have Afreen, Aditi. Afreen, are you there? Shivani, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Shivani. Can you just speak up?
Sir, I just saw that as soon as the man came in front of her, she could not control her emotions
I hope even you're not
and
crying.
she let it out. No,
Just
sir.
kidding. Please continue.
Yeah. She could not control herself and she let it out everything.
Yeah, exactly. And that is how it is. Even the best. She is a mind coach. She trains people. But for her, it was okay. Some relations are so important that you do not let go of it. And some people might say these are your ये मेरी कमजोरी है या what we call it as vulnerabilities. I think we should make peace with our vulnerability, and we should not be ashamed of in letting our emotions out, because the more we try to bottle it up, the more problems it creates for us in the long run. That is something which we need to understand and be mindful of. So what I say is just be yourself. You don't have to prove anything to anyone else. When you're feeling low, talk to people about it. When you're feeling bad, talk to people about it. When you're feeling angry, talk to people why you are angry. And that is in fact what will normalize you, what will control our emotions. It will ensure that you are not holding these emotions up into you, and one fine day just blast into something else which is not needed. And uh, that is where we look at this term called as what I've created also. Moving on is the transaction relationship pyramid. This person was so emotional about this person itself, who she had not seen in 40 years, but she placed that person very highly in her life. She sees so many people who come in front of her, she looks into them, very deeply, very intensely, but that she triggers an emotion in the opposite person, but she doesn't get emotional about it. And that is how important it is for us also to regulate our relationships. And I call this as a transactional relationship pyramid, which is also a full-fledged chapter in my book, uh, where I have said that we need to understand the essence of transactional relationship. Out of all the people that we meet in our daily lives, we need to understand what relevance does each person hold. you know Early in the morning, we have the grocer, we have the milkman. If we go to a gym instructor. If we are working in a company, our employer, we are dealing in a give and take relationship with these people, right? We pay them a certain amount and they give us a product or a service. Or if we are selling to our customers, we the customer pays us, and it is important that we give them the right service and the right product. The relationship is not beyond that. Okay, it is not something which will we have to get emotional about. Okay, uh, it is just simple take and give and take that we speak of. But beyond that essence is when we have certain friends, certain close friends, certain mentors, certain teachers, uh, some of our relatives or cousins. With them, we would not deal in a proper give and take manner. Why? Because today, if someone asks for your support, they need something in life. They need you to sit with them, and they want someone to talk out to. It's not that tomorrow you will go them and tell them, okay, yesterday I sat with you for 2 hours, today you sit with me for 2 hours. No, it doesn't happen that way, right? The same thing if you're lending some money to you, to your friend, you would not go immediately and ask that person to give that money back. You know that this person is going through a problem. You will wait, and maybe you are even okay that the money does not come back, because you have developed a greater sense of relationship with that person, right? When your teachers want something out of you, they are not looking out to get an immediate benefit out of you. But what gives them fulfillment is that you, as a student, as their student, has gone ahead and you know uh, got some great success in life. You have excelled in life. You have reached a position, and after years, maybe when you come back to them, they will be happy to see you in a position there, because there's a special bond which has been created. It's not just you coming over there, paying a fee, taking education and going out. Yes, that is there, of course, that's a basis, that's a give and take. But what is that forms a deeper relationship? And at the top, you have very special people with whom you don't mind giving your everything and without getting anything in return. These would be the few people, if you are married, your husband, your wife, if you're not married, maybe your parents, and so on and so forth. You don't mind giving what you absolutely have without expecting anything in return. Now, with these three categories of relationships, it is very important where do you place the people in the pyramid, because the way you place them will depend your relationship with them. And what happens is, with the people whom we need to be absolutely tight on our give and take, we go ahead and don't expect anything out of that, right? We work for an employer who pays us for a salary. We toil, we slog our lives out more than what is required without any expectation. I see so many people toiling 40 years into the same job, into doing the same thing without any change, and thinking that is their house. And at the same time, they treat their family in a transactional way of give and take. They only go home to eat food, sleep, and come back again. That is not how you regulate these relationships. You need to ensure who are the people and which category they fall into, and then you need to act basis that category. A term which is used often in defining relationships is the Stockholm Syndrome. If any one of you have seen the series The Money Heist, the Stockholm Syndrome has been shown often over there. So what Stockholm Syndrome was is that during the 1970s, there were a couple of robbers who entered a bank and they held certain hostages captive. And of course, they demanded a ransom from the officials and the authorities. And after 7 days, these hostages were freed. But what happened was, when these hostages came out, instead of speaking against their captors or the oppressors, they were speaking well about them. They were talking good about them. Okay, they empathized with the robbers, and they were telling the police officials don't do anything bad to them because they have their own reasons. They're justifying reasons, you know, onto why they committed the robbery, why they kidnapped or they held them under captive for 7 days. Now, this is the biggest problem that we run in our lives as well. People who abuse us, people who abuse our relationships, we still justify that relationship by saying, no, this is there might be some reason why this person doesn't behave with me correctly. But I'm still okay with uh, that that treatment, because I feel that is justified, which is an absolutely wrong thing to do. We need to figure out in our lives who are the people who bring pain to us, who bring a lot of suffering, and who are the people who really want us to do well. Beyond that relationship, there are relations with people whom we do not know but still do good for us. And that term is known as paying it forward. Today, someone has done something good for yourself, for you, and you're not able to go back and repay the goodness to that person. What do you do instead? You would go ahead and do that good for someone else. And what you hope is that that goodness carries forward, from one person to the other. It might sound a bit cliched, but I have seen people follow that, and they are never under any stress of life. They always feel that goodness will come to them when they do good to someone else. And that is how we need to understand and regulate our relations through this transaction relationship pyramid. We need to create that pyramid in our life, place it, see where each person fits, and then we need to act and move ahead in that manner, because undue attention, undue uh, reasoning for a person is damaging to ourselves. Moving on to the next topic of fear. Fear, I see this as a primary emotion which regulates a lot of our emotions. And it becomes very important to understand when we talk about well being and emotional intelligence to understand fear. I have defined fear as in two forms, in two broad forms: fear that constructs and fear that destroys. Right? If I ask you to go and cross the road blindly, you would definitely not do that because you always have this fear of a moving vehicle towards. It is illogical, right? If I tell you to put your hand in a bucket of boiling water, you would not do that. There would be a certain fear that would stop you from doing it. If I ask you to hold a sharp knife in the kitchen in your college and cut it, keep your hand close to it while cutting, you will not do that. You'll always have this fear. Now that fear is constructive. It always draws those boundaries to your action to safeguard you, to protect you from things which are dangerous. And that fear has been developed with you know uh, your own experiences. You have seen things falling apart, failing, or being damaged when certain steps are not taken into consideration. But apart from that, there is another fear which is phobia. It is said humans are the only species on the planet who believe things which they have not seen. Okay, and these things, when it's negative, when it's damaging, that creates a phobia in our minds, which limits us from things that we can actually do. And we say, oh no, we don't want to do it. Pata nahi kya hoga. So those are the fears which destroys us. We need to classify the fears that we have. Make a list, write down. These are things that I'm afraid of, and then classify: is this real danger, or is this something which I have just made up in a mind? There is this famous movie, Rocky, the Rocky series. I'm not sure how many of you at this age might have seen it, but in my generation, this is one of the cult movies. I still watch it, and it's a six-part movie wherein Sylvester Stallone plays the main lead as Rocky. And there is a scene in the fifth part where he speaks with his son, and he tells his son that Frankie Fear is your best friend, or maybe your only friend, because he explains to his son that whenever he looks at his opponent, he's afraid that his opponent might crush him. And because of that fear, he trains equally hard. He tries to read his opponent. He studies his opponent. He analyzes all the different moves. He collects enough data to have him better prepared against his opponent. And to look at it, when you have that kind of fear, the fear of doing well in life will always draw you to things which are required to be analyzed that will help you in life. And that really is your best friend and maybe your only friend who will propel you in the right direction. All right. Fear is also constituted by this phenomenon which we call as the amygdala hijack. Now, how does fear, or how are all our emotions created in our brains? In our brain, we have a tissue or a part which is known as the amygdala. Now, when you see a tiger in front of you, the natural response is to be afraid and run. Why do you get afraid? Is because that thought, your eye has seen the tiger, and imagine immediately it has sent a message to the amygdala, and the amygdala responses by being afraid. If you see ice cream or if you see a pastry, and immediately your mouth starts watering, if you have a sweet tooth, that is because a message has been sent from your eye into your amygdala that there's an ice cream and you have to react in a certain way. All your emotions are generated within your amygdala in the brain. And the amygdala stores information based on what you see to remind you the next time that something is bad, something is dangerous, or something is good, or something might not be good. So, for example, let's say you are walking the stairs of your building, and the building is of 10 floors. You're coming down, you have reached the sixth floor, and suddenly you slip on those stairs and you fracture your hand. Now, what happens, and because of the fracture, you are not able to move for 10 days, you are bedridden, and so on and so forth. Now, what happens is your amygdala has registered these sequence of events. Okay, and we call it the neural activity. It has registered the 6th floor of your building. It has registered those steps. It has registered the fall. It has registered the pain. And this has created a story within your amygdala. So next time when you are all right, when you go back to the building, when you reach the 6th floor again, the whole sequence of events will play again. And by all means, you will be wary or you'll be afraid again, or you'll be conscious of walking the steps slowly at that spot because you know now you have the last time you were here, you had slipped, you broke your elbow, and you were bedridden for 10 days. And this is why how the amygdala hijack works when certain events, when we hear a certain song, they get registered in a certain way in our memory. A shirt that we wore for a special event that gets registered in a certain way in our memory, and we relate to these events, items, objects, certain people when there's a certain memory that gets incited. You need to understand why it has been incited. It is real. Is it real or is it just a phobia which has been developed? And the growth of Homo sapiens, we as humans, has always been due to fear, right? Uh, the another species of Homo sapiens was the Neanderthals. Those species did not exist or were not able to be as smart as Homo sapiens because they did not understand fear. They did not move in communities together. Homo sapiens would, if Neanderthals know that there's a predator who comes over here, and let's say it comes at 11 o'clock, and that predator is dangerous to me. Homo sapiens, through gossip, were able to create stories on what time does it come, how does it attack. They were able to generate stories out of narratives which helped them to grow, and why we became such a powerful species on the planet that we moved on top of the entire food chain, and we are able to control all the species around us because we are able to use fear in a better way. But when we don't use fear in a better way, those develop phobias which actually limit us, which restricts us from doing what we can do. It's been said there are 7 types of fear that control us. I will not get into details of that. The fear of poverty, the fear of death, the fear of old age, the fear of success. All these are different fears, that limits us. The fear of poverty, we're always in the constant fear of being poor. We're not able to improve our condition. The fear of old age, people are afraid of turning old. They do different types of things as their age increases. All these types of fears we need to understand. Maybe at some time you're able to Google it and understand it and use it for your own good, for your own betterment. Uh, as we move and how these fears are generated, we move to an important topic of, Sabia was mentioning about how automated systems, new artificial intelligence, machine learning, the Internet of Things are shaping our future. The entire purpose of speaking to you to understand all these emotions is to make you aware of how these emotions will be controlled by something which is not in your hand. And that control lies with technology. The more technology we create, it is good, it is great. It makes our life comfortable, it creates convenience for ourselves. But what we also do is we lose control in understanding ourselves better and reacting in the way that we would naturally do. So we need to understand how the code of the future has been created, the world that we want versus the world that we get. Technology is always sold to us saying, it'll make your lives better. Okay. It'll give you more time to do things. But tell me today, with all the technology that we have, how much of free time do we get? Every invention was created to save time, to create comfort, but or to make us happy. But has that been the case really in our lives? Is that we say, is there a utopia created where we say the future is perfect, it is rosy? Or is there a dystopia which is created where, we have got too much into technology, we are unable to recognize individuals, we are unable to relate to individuals, and that dystopia which is making humans irrelevant. What is, how is technology working in your life? Is technology the only purpose of your life, or is technology helping you with your purpose of your life? Why do you go on social media? Why do you engage with social media? All these are questions which will become more relevant, which will become more important in your own careers, in your own lives, as chefs, as catering students. How can you use your art, your business is to meet customers, to make them happy, but how can you use that technology to make them happy instead of, you know creating something bad for yourself? you know Today we are consuming technology much faster. It took 50 years for television as a technology to reach millions of people. Today it took only a year for Facebook to reach millions of people. And that is how we are consuming technology. We just want the latest technology which is out in the market without knowing how we can use them, without knowing how it will improve our lives. The iPhone, the moment it comes out, there's a mad rush into the market. Of course, our iPhone has great features, but do we really know how those features will help us, or are we just consuming it because the whole world is consuming it? Are we working on the pitch that has been sold to us, or are we really asking deep questions to ourselves? Okay, how will certain technology help us in our life? You know, and there's this term called as singularity, which says a point where technology will become smarter than humans. We don't know. Expert says that maybe 10 years down the line. Some people say that maybe 50 years down the line. And that will make humans irrelevant. Maybe there are robots tomorrow who can cook better than us, who can serve people better than us. How do we face that future? We are moving from the computing age into the robotic age. We are moving into age where our skills will be required to be changed or upskilled in every 3 or 4 years, right? Because technology is becoming so fast. There are so many new things which are coming. Earlier, if we learned a skill in college, if we learned something in college, we could use it for the 10 years, maybe do a course for something new, and then spend the rest of 10, 20 years. But that is not happening. Today, in every 2 or 3 years, there's a new technology. In your own colleges, you might be seeing there's so many new stuff that is coming out. How would you keep upskilling yourself to that, to those inventions, to those creations, to make yourself relevant in the market? How, and we talk about this final frontier of intelligence, and that is what even my book is all about. We know human intelligence. Human intelligence is based on what we have seen, what we have learned, our surroundings, our ecosystem, the people around us, right? And that is how our intelligence has been built. I spoke about the type 1 and type 2 thinking, how a bias has been created. Based on this human intelligence, today corporations are creating artificial intelligence, which are learning from human intelligence to replicate humans in every task they do, in every activity that they perform, right? So do we get encouraged? Do we sit and say, oh, everything is artificial intelligence now, we cannot do anything? Or do we create a system of emotional intelligence which resides over artificial intelligence and is able to better use these technologies and better, and at the same time regulate your emotions? Like I mentioned, are the forces which act on our mind states, to incite a reaction, to create a reaction. Are we able to create that kind of a system? That is, are we able to reach that final frontier of intelligence? Is all depending upon us on how do we see it and how do we implement it in life. my final talk is on understanding who we really are, because throughout this session we have spoken of becoming something else who we are not, based on various strategies which people adopt to change our nature, to change our belief systems, to change our actions, and all of this changes our behaviors and habits. We know we want to do good in life, we know we want to excel in life, but we are not conditioned to do the hard work, we are not conditioned to fail, we are not conditioned to you know uh, research and investigate on what can bring us success. We just know success. Uh, and the way different things happen around us, we react. Why we become angry, why we get depressed on failure, why we get sad, why do we become happy? All right. All of this leads to a question to understand who I really am. And again, I would want you to go and practice this uh, at your own time. I would not do that again. Close your eyes, be in a very comfortable, relaxed position, and focus on your breathing again, like we did at the start. And while you do that, try to bring your focus onto your nostrils. Try to inhale and exhale, and slowly get into mind state. Remember the time that something made you angry with your friend or your parents, and then question yourself and look at that person the way they are reacting when they're angry. Look at the person, what the words that they say, the words that they come out of, and ask yourself, are you that person? Or is there something, a stimulus, which got this reaction out of you, which got this response out of you? Think of a time which made you sad, which made you depressed. Okay, or maybe you are sad and angry about something right now. Think of the time why, and look at the person that you are when you get depressed or sad. Now, this person who's looking into that sad person, the person who's looking into this angry person is you. And you are just that realization. You're realizing these elements of emotion, right? This is the natural you that you are. And you are just evoked by various stimulus, various actions by people outside who are trying to get a reaction. Okay? Go ahead and practice this. I would want you to implement this into your lives. I would like to share a link which you can implement, which you can use in your daily lives. Just hold on. Which I have created a small strategy on building your emotional intelligence, on using that emotional intelligence in daily life. And like I said at the beginning, we practice this. When we practice this regularly, we will be able to better regulate it, and that is what it is all about. Uh, that's all what my session is. That is what I speak on emotional intelligence, and I leave the forum open for any questions from anyone who wants to ask me anything, has any doubts.
Anyone? Any questions? You all can put it in the chat box, or if you want, I can unmute you. So, Mr. Shetty, we have these young minds. Obviously, it is a bit of a heavy topic to kind of for them to kind of take it down. But I'm sure with age and with experience, they will surely understand how important this particular topic is in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned, Sabia, even before the presentation, uh, my entire NDO was to create examples which uh, these people will be able to relate to, because there may be many experiences of life that they have not gone through yet. Uh,
Right.
so I hope I was able to relate to you in that way. The I hope the session made some sense. Uh, these are like I mentioned at the start, it will be great for you to connect to me. These are the points. I'm on various platforms, and that is how I use social media in my life. And whatever platform you are comfortable with, There's a YouTube channel, there's a podcast. Of course, the book is on Amazon for you to pick up. I hope you pick it up and give it a read. And it's able to bring some change within you after you read the book. Just type shift left on Amazon and you'll find the book there. I'm on LinkedIn, on Facebook. So anywhere students want to connect to me, they can reach out. I would love to hear your feedback. I would love to hear how these things are changing your life, and you know, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So that's all about from my side. Thank you so much for giving this time. I hope it was enriching. It was helpful.
Absolutely. I mean, in today's age and time, it's very important to, and with so much of extravaganza around, it's important to ignore the peripheral extravaganzas, which might be simply an eye wash and illusion, which is actually depleting, like you rightly said, depleting a lot of thought process and mindsets. We are all only looking out for validation and approval, which was so rightly put by you. Very important point I feel is one's entitlement and locus of control. If your locus of control is from within and you take the blame, or you shoulder what you do and not put it on anybody else, I mean, that's where you won half the battle. So I personally feel the locus of control plays a very important part. And in these tumultuous times, I'm sure your session is nothing less than a breath of fresh air, where even if we have grasped, say 50% of it, it's like, working towards our emotional well-being. And if I have to put it metaphorically, it's like, a house is on fire. Your session comes like a fire extinguisher, comes and extinguishes, and not only that, but puts the house back in a happy place. So thank you very much, Mr. Shetty, for doing this. And I extend my heartfelt gratitude on behalf of my principals, Dr. Rukshana Bilamoria and Mr. Harish Suvarna, my colleagues, students, and we hope to stay connected to get such positive reinforcement and stay sane, I would say, in this insane world. So thank you so much, Mr. Shetty. You're on mute, Mr. Shetty. Mr. Shetty,
Yeah.
you're
Sorry.
on mute, yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Thanks to you, Sabia. I think from day one, you've been right up there in coordinating with me and uh, getting this session, making it possible. Yes, definitely. This is the first session, but I would love to engage with the students on a continuous basis, as and when we have the time, we are able to, you know, get some time for ourselves and understand these aspects. Like I said, there are other sessions on career planning and getting future ready as well. So I would love to interact. I have just pasted the link for the book if anyone is interested to pick it up and give it a read. So maybe that helps, because I say 2 hours are not enough for anyone to understand emotions completely. We do our best to achieve that, but it becomes really difficult, to understand emotions. People give a complete in-depth view on how to regulate and practice these things. So thanks to you, thanks to Rukshana, thank you so much,
Pleasure
the
was all ours
entire
to have you.
institute, and all the best to you. I hope the best to each one of you in their careers and excel. And maybe I'm able to bump across some great chef in some great restaurant someday and meet you in person. That will be great.
Sure. Sure.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much.